IELTSspeaking.ca. IELTS Speaking Part 2 and 3 questions and model answers at the Band 9 level for the topic of boring or feeling bored. Here is the Part 2 topic about feeling bored. And here are the Part 3 questions related to this topic. Now, let's hear a Band 9 model response to Part 2 topic. Remember, you have 1 minute to prepare and 2 minutes to talk about it on a real test. I remember when I was in high school, there were some classes that I found to be boring. In particular, one class, which was grade 10 history, was a total drag. Time just seemed to stand still while being there, and there were several reasons why it happened. The classroom setting was one thing that I didn't appreciate at all. I was assigned to sit in the back corner of the classroom, and because of the room design, I had only one person sitting next to me who I could only communicate with. However, this guy, whose name was Jim, was very introverted and uninteresting, so it was harder than normal to start up an interesting conversation with him. Some days in that class, I recall that I may have never even said a word, which was quite different than my other classes. Another thing that made the situation so tedious was the dull teacher, Mr. Deeb. From what I remember, the content of the subject seemed somewhat interesting, but the way that he presented wasn't. This teacher spoke so slowly and with a monotone voice, so much so that I often spent my time daydreaming instead of concentrating. I don't think I was alone with my boredom either. The students on the whole appeared to be disengaged, and unfortunately Mr. Deeb didn't make any in-class adjustments as he just kept to his same old boring script. It's a shame that this all happened. Learning about history can be very interesting, but that year I lost motivation to study it, which made everything even harder. The teacher expected us to memorize a lot of important dates from history. To do well in tests, I really needed to push myself, but at times, I felt that studying was pointless. Fortunately, now I find reading and watching documentaries about history to be pretty fascinating. But back in grade 10, I dreaded entering the door of that classroom because I found it to be the most boring place in the world. Thank you, that's all I have to say. Now let's look at some Part 2 vocabulary related to this topic that you can use if you're talking about feeling bored or boring. Here again is the Part 3 questions related to the topic of being bored or feeling bored. Now we're going to listen to some model responses to these questions. I guess it would be hard for any two people to fully agree since we all have different preferences and abilities, but I suppose that would be the kind of positions that generally involve a lot of repetitive work without much mental stimulation. One job that comes to my mind is working in an assembly line. These workers typically have to stand in one spot for hours, and there isn't much variety in their tasks. Other jobs that might be mind-numbing dull for most people are working as a dishwasher, security guard, or even a data entry clerk. Why? It might be because some people often have no choice. If you think of young people who don't have many skills or experience, They may have to work in a boring type of job if they want a bit of extra pocket money. And it seems to me that a lot of people who have decent careers may eventually become bored with their work. This is because even if a job starts off as being fairly engaging, it can become boring once you master the tasks and aren't challenged with anything new. I'm not exactly sure, but I suppose that there could be a number of factors contributing to this. Obviously, no two people are the same. Some have a stronger need for excitement and variety than others require, which puts them at a higher risk of boredom, and others are just placed in the wrong environment. If you are in a place that doesn't draw upon your talents or skills, you are more likely to experience boredom. Stimulation of the mind is very important, and if you don't have that, time can move slowly. To me, this really depends on the situation a person is in. Unfortunately, I believe that schools and workplaces are partially to blame for making people's lives less interesting. The structures that they impose upon people and the mind numbing tasks that are sometimes required often don't stimulate people. However, during people's free time, there are less excuses for feeling bored. People can always learn something new as the options are endless. This is a tough question. I suppose that most people will say yes to this, and it would seem that they are right. Technology has really brought a lot of things that entertain us, such as hilarious YouTube videos, social media, and smartphones. Our time can be filled up much easier than it was in the past. However, sometimes I think technology has taken something valuable away from us. A lot of people are now becoming almost mindlessly engaged with devices, and at times it seems that we have become tools of our tools. I believe that people are not so preoccupied with technology, usually live more entertaining and fulfilled lives. So I'm going to have to say no to this question. Yes, I most definitely think so. If there is one thing that people have control over, it is themselves. They may be placed in boring and tedious environments, but they could do many little things to try to overcome this. Perhaps, for example, they can listen to music while working, or they may take short, brisk walk breaks to give a mood boost. If they find that this isn't working, they can try to change their environment by getting a different job, meeting new people, starting a new hobby, or even by asking for more challenging work. A lot of people are capable of controlling their own destiny as long as they are self aware and take appropriate action. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.